my advice to them would just be, hey, like, I've been through that too. Like, I fully experienced an eating disorder, body image issues, depression, anxiety. You know, I fully felt that too. And you're not alone, because at the end of the day, every athlete feels like, oh, I can't be the one that's anxious. I got to be the one that gets it done. What about her? What about him? He's killing it. They're killing it. Like, why do I feel this way? Why do I not like myself? Why am I so focused on how I look in my uniform? Why am I sad when we're winning?
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's podcast. I have a very special guest. I have Victoria Garrick on the show. She is a former Division I volleyball player at the University of Southern California and also plays semi-pro as well. She is a TED Talk speaker, mental health and body image advocate, and also a podcast host herself. She has a passion for inspiring and supporting and motivating people for all walks of life. And I actually personally found out about her through one of my athletes. I was working with her mom and her daughter. Actually got a chance to listen to Victoria talk and just said it was amazing just hearing how she was able to connect with her and just dealing with some of the struggles that she was having in school. So kind of just reach out to Victoria. I'm very, very thankful to have her on the show. Welcome to the show, Victoria.
Thank you, Wesley. I'm pumped to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. And we're kind of just going to jump right into things, which is what I like to do. Do you mind
Let's do
just
it.
do you mind just telling us a little bit about your story and what led you to becoming kind of a mental health and body image advocate?
Yeah. So I was someone that had never experienced mental health issues in high school. I was a pretty much happy girl. I grew up very privileged and fortunate. I didn't think that, especially being an athlete, I was susceptible to something like depression or anxiety. I thought, I had everything together. And when I got to college, I just really felt the pressure weigh on me of that full-time student, full-time athlete lifestyle. And that took me by surprise. And before I knew it, I was battling performance anxiety, which ended up leading me to depression. And I started advocating for it. Well, what happened was when I was going through all of my mental health issues, I didn't feel like there was someone I could look to or someone who made me feel more secure in what I was going through, because we so often see everyone who is killing it and perfect and happy. And so I felt even more alone, not having a story or a person to relate to. And so when I had the opportunity to, audition to share my story for TED Talks, I really wanted to do that. And I was a journalism student, so I constantly was taking notes in my phone about my days and my struggles and writing articles and just trying to use my voice. And when I had that opportunity, I really wanted to do it, because I thought, okay, if I can create a 15-minute video that will live online, and if someone types in depressed athlete, they might find me and then they might feel better about what they're going through, then I want to do this. And so that's really why I started in the beginning.
Yeah, and I think it's, even just with the one specific case that I just told you about, where one of our athletes at our facility heard your talk, and I'm sure other athletes were there too, because we have several girls on that team. But just obviously hearing firsthand, hopefully it just shows as more reinforcement that you are making a very, very big difference. And I started following your Instagram a little while ago, and I actually really love the fact that you uh, live what's it called, live stream with your followers right away. I saw that a lot of them are younger people, and they get so excited when they see you. And I'm sure it's really cool for you to understand that you are obviously making a big impact of all ages, from, as I think some people were as young as like 12 years old. And I saw an adult on the show. He was like 30, something like that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild. Going live with my followers has been so fun. I did not even expect to do that. I didn't think about it as a series. I didn't plot it out, but then I went live one day and I was just like, I'm bored and people are requesting to get in this thing, so let's do it. And I just started accepting, and now I love it. And it's been really cool to see the reaction to that. I mean, they love having the opportunity to talk. I love it. And also now when I see their comments, or I see their profile pictures, it's like, oh yeah, we spoke. I FaceTimed you. You're a real human. I know who you are. I remember what you told me. It just makes me also feel more connected to someone as opposed to just like a username profile. So
Yeah.
that's why I love it as well.
Yeah, I love that. And I know that we kind of talked about how you're going around to schools and stuff. And I know you've spoken to schools across the nation. And do you mind just kind of sharing a little bit about that and what led you to do this and maybe some of the topics that you mainly cover when you were doing these talks?
Yeah, so I had no plans or agenda to quote unquote become a public speaker. The TED Talk was the first time I ever spoke publicly. However, I grew up loving to talk in front of the classroom, present, like doing things in front of the school assembly was never something that made me nervous. Like I was always in the talent show. So I never had a fear of doing anything like that. However, I never like prepared and delivered a talk, a keynote. So when I did that, it was the first time. I actually did not speak again for 2 years. I mean, I did like one small talk in Greek life, and then I did like a workshop with one of the teams for body image, but I did not think about giving a legitimate 45-minute talk. And then I had a direct message come in from a student athlete at Denison University saying, I saw your TED Talk. I loved it. Will you come speak here in person? And I remember reading that and thinking, I mean, I guess I can do that. I mean, I don't know why I couldn't. So I went out there and we figured it out. I got there. My mom came with me. I gave a talk. It went really well. And I made an awesome connection with those athletes, some of whom I still follow and talk to today, which is really special to me. And from that point on, you post about it. Another student says, oh, well, you went there. Can you come here? And then it picks up. And then before I know it, I'm now in advance, planning out like a full speaking tour where I go and I speak to mainly college student athletes and then college coaches and faculty about the mental health issues facing student athletes and really sharing my story about what I went through to hopefully help that conversation start and continue on these campuses.
Gotcha. And I know that just now you kind of mentioned the words performance anxiety. It is something I see a lot of. I mentioned earlier that I see a lot of ACLs. And, one of the things is like, am I going to make it back? And if I make it back, like, what's the coach going to think about me? And I think the reason why I really wanted to have you on also is because I have some stories where, an athlete will get hurt and tear their ACL, and then the coach won't really check in on them for 9 months, and what does that do to a psyche of an athlete? Whereas like, does the coach really care about me? Or having in colleges in particular, in some schools where they're doing the rehab on their own. So in this daunting task of trying to recover from an ACL tear to get back on the field again, it's like they're doing all this on their own, and it's something that I'm very cognizant of, but it's also something that I definitely wanted to have you on and see what maybe I could do better. And the psychological side is something that's really, really important in the whole ACL rehab process. And personally, something I think is not really talked about enough. They have to overcome the fear and anxiety of not re-tearing their ACL. And also obviously the physical aspect of regaining all the strength and muscles and all that kind of stuff. And, do you personally have experience with any type of, major injury? And what advice do you have for athletes who may be struggling with the mental side of overcoming a severe injury?
Yeah, I mean, I was fortunate to not experience in college something that kept me from games. I did not have one game in years where I couldn't play because of an injury. And I'm really lucky and grateful that happened. And that's a statement I did not make until I was done with my career because I did not want to jinx myself. But you better bet junior year, I was thinking, I've never had an injury, but I was not going to say that out loud. I did have a back injury. So I did wear a back brace for 2 years of my career, and I had to get some x-rays and things looked at, but I ended up being very lucky that my position as libero did not have to jump or do any like impact with the ground. So I was able to manage my back. However, if I had been an outside hitter or a middle or someone who was jumping and attacking, I would have absolutely had to probably like sit out a season because my back was so bad from impact. So I was able to like adjust my workouts and my lifts to not have to do the box jumps, not have to do some of those things to accommodate my back. So I was lucky that that was something I could manage. But I mean, and that's the other thing too, is I'm really careful about not speaking on things I haven't experienced, right? Like I don't want to sit here and tell someone who tore their ACL how they should handle it, because I never tore my ACL. I don't know how I'd handle it. That must be so hard. But one thing that I do want to say that I feel like I can speak on is you mentioning this, what will my coach think of me? You know, what will people think of me when I come back from injury? And I have had those same thoughts on like, what will my coach think of me after I go to therapy? What will my coach think of me after I do this or that? So that's something I would love to, you know, discuss with you. And I think that something that I would advise to maybe someone who's had an injury and is recovering and is having those thoughts is, you know, we really, as student athletes, I personally think, have to fully detach from what our coach thinks of us. Because even though we want our coaches to love us and we want to be their favorite and we want to have a relationship with them, let's be real, at the Division I level, they want to win national championships. That is their priority, right? That is their job. They're not there to create mentorships and build relationships for lifelong. That might happen. Some coaches are really cool, but the underlying factor of most great D1 coaches is they want to win. And sadly, that means they're not going to take that time to care, check in on you while you're healing, check in on you and how you're doing, because they're just focused on what can work for them. And, you know, that was a harsh reality that, you know, I've learned, and I think a lot of athletes have learned. And I don't think it's anything like that we have to take personally against coaches. Like, they're there to do their job the same way our priority as a player is to play, right? I would rather play than have my coach like me, right? We all can equally say we have one thing we want to get out of this experience. And it's mostly the coaches want to win and the athletes want to play, and then they want to win. So I think for me, like, just detaching from what does my coach think of me? I care so much about that, and letting that go. And instead being, okay, what can I control? Like, and if I were, you know, injured, I would think, like, I can control how hard I go on rehab. I can control how diligent I am about the training. I can control that I'm showing up every day to do rehab. And then I can control when I get back in the gym, how hard I'm going to work, that I'm going to beat out the other competition, that I'm going to prove that I'm able to contribute in a game. So it's like all the things I can control. And obviously a good coach is going to recognize a player that can help you win. And that's what they want. So for me, like, I think it drove me crazy to think, what does my coach think of me? You know, what do they want from me? And then having to make up these stories, right? That's where that anxiety comes in, where we make these assumptions. And really letting go of your coach's opinion of you and just focusing on being the best version of yourself and trusting that that is going to bring you where you need to be, I think can bring the most peace and help mitigate that anxiety.
Yeah, I love that. I think it's definitely something that I talk to a lot of my athletes about too, where, you know, as simple as it is just focusing on what's in your control. I think a lot of, especially I would say younger athletes, they start to look at, you know, 2, 3 years down the line, or even a year down the line. You know, I think about some of my high school kids that I work with, where maybe they got hurt during a tough recruiting period, where it's like the prime recruiting period, and they're quote unquote damaged goods because they can't play or perform at the current level because they're recovering from an ACL tear. And then they think about, oh, all my friends are committing to schools that I want to go to, and I'm over here still waiting on an offer or whatever it is. And that's like, there's a full spectrum of anxiety that happens, and that's kind of that pre-sport anxiety. And then you have the actual in-season anxiety, which I see also with a lot of my ACLs. And do you have any advice for, you know, clinicians like myself or strength coaches and trainers to help with some of our athletes who would be struggling with body image and mental health?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I definitely have some advice I want to give, some things I want to share. So are you meaning someone with an ACL specifically who is worried about mental health because of the ACL and body image because of the ACL?
Maybe, I
Sure.
guess, both sides of it. Like, maybe since most of my athletes are ACLs, but how about like, well, kind of a part A, part B. The part A would be more so just ACLs, and part B would just be athletes in general who may struggle with the performance anxiety portion that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think for part A, just anyone with an ACL tear dealing with a mental health injury, ways that clinicians can help them. I feel like just being someone they feel like will not judge them for how they feel. And, you know, just allowing them to have that conversation with you about, yeah, you know, like, the last thing I want to do today is rehab. I just want to be healthy. I just want to play. Like, the last thing I want to do, Wesley, right now is do the rehab you've made for me, you know? And I think, like, allowing them to feel like it's okay to be super frustrated. It's okay to be super upset and angry at the situation. Like, you got to let yourself feel those things so that you can fully let them come out of you, and then you can mourn them, and then you can get onto the, okay, what's in my control? How can I get better? How do we bounce back? But you can't fully tap into that optimistic mindset unless you really let yourself mourn anything in life, So I know if an athlete is experiencing an injury and it's really tough on them, like, cry it out. Be honest about what you're going through. I mean, that's hard. That's unimaginable. Any athlete that's been injured would probably agree, they would not wish it upon their worst enemy. They wouldn't. And I just think, so being really honest about how you feel, letting those things come, and then as someone who works with them on the daily, just asking those questions of like, hey, how are you? I know this is tough. How are you handling it? And just letting them know that you're a safe space. Because they're going to spend a lot of time with you, right, in rehab. And that, I think, is a really cool opportunity for you to like totally change the trajectory of their life right there in that moment. Like, how is this injury and their healing going to shape them? And there's a lot of power in that, which is really cool. And then the part B, athletes in general dealing with, was it just with body image and mental health? I would say my advice to them would just be, hey, like, I've been through that too. Like, I fully experienced an eating disorder, body image issues, depression, anxiety. I fully felt that too. And you're not alone. Because at the end of the day, every athlete feels like, oh, I can't be the one that's anxious. I got to be the one that gets it done. What about her? What about him? He's killing it. They're killing it. Like, why do I feel this way? Why do I not like myself? Why am I so focused on how I look in my uniform? Why am I sad when we're winning? And so I think just letting them know I've been there, and I can also promise I've met and hugged hundreds of student athletes who have been there too. So there's a lot of us feeling that way. I would think the majority, just from my experience, the majority of student athletes have all experienced some sort of mental health symptom or issue that has been a challenge for them. And I think that's something that unites all of us, is knowing that there's a whole community going through this.
Yeah, I love that a lot. I think you hit on a lot of big points there, where at least for me, so I have certain rules that before, when I get an athlete, especially in ACL, just because I understand, just how lengthy the rehab process is going to be. And one of my primary rules is to actually, I tell them that two major rules, actually. One, you can't lie to me. And two, you have to work hard. Two very simple concepts, which I feel like make a big difference. And the not lying to me portion, I kind of reiterate it and tell them that, if you're frustrated, I need you to tell me, because I need to understand how to maybe modify the program that day, because to make it a little more fun or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
And even for, like you just said, that one of the biggest things that I really, really try to do is to try and create a safe space, just like you said. And I think a perfect example is right now, one of my girls who's pretty far into her rehab, she's doing really, really well. But she's that girl who I told you about, where all her friends are committed to colleges to play lacrosse. And she's the one kind of in the back right now. I've had conversations with their parents before, and I told them both, I was like, a lot of times I actually don't even bring up lacrosse, because we don't need to talk about it right now. She's probably talking about it enough with her friends and family and all that kind of stuff, and trying to reach out to coaches. And then for me is, if she wants to bring it up to me and talking about the recruiting process, I'm more than happy to talk about it with her. But at least for that, hour and a half session that we have together, let's just focus on, like you said, improving a little bit each day. Let's just get better today, so that when you come back in a week or so, you're stronger than you were last week. You're more confident than you were last week. And that's what we can focus on. At the end of the day, the whole recruiting process, like, we can't control whether or not a coach reaches out to you at this very moment, but we can control you rehabbing harder and you getting stronger, so that when the time comes and the opportunity comes, you are ready to go. No fear, no anxiety, none of that stuff. So
Right.
I think it's something, and it's, I think another big reason about why I really wanted to get you on is because, I'm far from perfect as far as the clinician goes. So there's definitely things that I need to do better and I want to do better. But I think one of the bigger things I do well is more so the empathetic side, particularly when you're dealing with ACLs. I think people don't really understand the magnitude of this injury. And I'm sure you've probably had at least one or two friends that have gone through this process before. And, a lot of people come to see me from other facilities, and they'll be like, yeah, my PT never really talked to me about this or whatever it is. They kind of just gave me some exercises and left me on my own. And then, like I said, like with this whole process, they already feel like they're alone because they're away from their team. I've talked with other ACL athletes, even that I haven't worked with, and the most common denominator is the fact that they always feel alone because you're very, very likely going to miss a season, and you're the one sitting on the sidelines. And yes, you are technically with the team, but at the same time, you're still distant. And I had one girl tell me that, like, I think her team won their conference championship when she was playing soccer, and she was the one on the sidelines, and she was just like, it's not the same, no matter what, you're a high level athlete. If
Right. You want to be a part of the win.
Yeah. And yes, you are technically part of the team, obviously on the roster and everything like that. But just earlier, go ahead.
There's so much heartbreak in sports. I mean, you say close people to you must have experienced injury. I mean, my boyfriend, Max Brown, suffered a labrum tear to his shoulder, just was never the same. I mean, you're a quarterback, you need your shoulder. That's done. And it's just like years, decades of practice. I mean, you talk about your lacrosse athlete, her whole high school experience, just the glamorized idea of recruiting and commitment day and the balloons and the celebration, and it's gone and it's not in your control, and it's so frustrating. And like my mom and my mom jokes, just because like all of everyone, at least me and my older brother, were athletes, our significant others that we date are athletes, and so when we've all experienced heartbreak in various ways, and my mom's like, God, can one of you just like not play sports? Because there's always like, you're always either you're on the bench and you want to play and you're crying because you're not playing, and then you're playing and you have performance anxiety and you're scared to play, and then you get injured, and there's just so many ups and downs. And that's why it's such a beautiful game when it is going well for you, because there's so much that is contributing to just that flow state, that one good game, that championship. And I feel for you, that lacrosse player you talk about. Like, I could feel for her. I just want to give her a hug. But I think the one thing I would say is, we grow up writing a story for ourselves. You're supposed to be the next big lacrosse player. You're supposed to go to the Ivy League and play on their team. You're supposed to do this. You're supposed to blah, blah, blah. And then we as young people, which I still am, associate with the story. I'm supposed to go to USC and live my dream and be so happy, and it's going to be the best thing ever. And oh wait, that's not how it is. And it's just a challenge when you suddenly get hit with, the story that we all wrote in our heads and that your parents told you. It's not going to happen that way. And like, that can be a huge identity crisis, and like well, what now? And, as much as it's brutal to go through, I really think that if you try to find the silver lining, or you try to find how it's going to make you stronger, like you said, all you can control is this, and trusting in the opportunity in the future,
Yeah, definitely. And we've talked a little bit about performance anxiety already, but I feel like it's something that we can touch on a little more. And do you mind kind of giving maybe a kind of a definition, or your definition of performance anxiety, and maybe some practical advice for athletes who are kind of maybe struggling with this aspect? And I bring this up because there's an athlete that I know who is currently committed to play a sport for their school in college, and this person has talked to me about it, and they are questioning whether or not this is for them, because, like you said, it's quote unquote supposed to happen. And this was the same thing for this athlete, where it was like, I grew up playing the sport for 6-7 years, and then I got really good. I'm one of the best players on my high school team, and then I was supposed to go committed to playing for a Division I school, and then, okay, cool, I just committed to it. And then when this person came to talk to me, they were just like, am I supposed to do this? Like, I have legitimately anxiety about playing a sport where they had like peelings on their nails from just biting it and peeling it, and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, and when I talked to this person, I was like, you need to think about the next 4 years of your life, and whether or not this is something that's in a sense worth it, because is it going to compromise your happiness and all this kind of stuff? So this person was a main reason why I was like, I wanted to ask this question about performance anxiety.
Yeah, well, it's so sad because I feel like that has been something that has continually happened just with younger athletes right now, because there's so much pressure on getting the scholarship, getting the commitment, getting all that stuff, the social media. Like that wasn't a thing when I was in high school. It was just starting. And now you see the burnout happening before college. Before college, athletes are burning out. I mean, when I got to college, I was like, I have all the juice in my tank to go right now, because I practiced 3 days a week in high school, and here I am. And now you see these high school teams, like they're all doing their high school's practice 4 times a week. Then they have their club practice. Maybe they're doing dual sport. Then they're in APs, and there's just a million things going on, and the burnout's happening so much younger. So that is sad, because I do believe that there is so much joy and fun for the game that can be preserved, and that is getting lost too quickly from a variety of circumstances. But I guess to your questions, one, my definition of performance anxiety would have to be the fear of performing your craft, whatever that is, that you think you're not going to do it to the best of your abilities, that you're going to mess up, that you're going to fail, the fear of, not doing something perfectly. And I love this idea of performance, because it is that, you have a moment, the game starts, and that is your opportunity to perform. And we're anxious about that moment, that whistle blow, that start of the clock. And, I've been there. I mean, we can talk about it all day long. My performance anxiety was there for me for 4 years of college. And then, sorry, what was your second question? I have short-term memory.
I guess for someone who is struggling with performance anxiety, any, maybe practical advice. I know we talked about focusing on your control, focusing on things that are in your control, but, is there anything else? Like, do you feel like people should seek out more professional help if they need it, if there's certainly a threshold or something like that?
Yes, for sure. And I'm really glad you asked this, because I have a passionate answer. I feel like it is easy for us to think mentally, oh, this is just how I am. This is how I think. This is what I say to myself. This is how I feel. And that's that. However, physically as athletes, it's never been that way. It's okay, I can get better at my jump shot. I can get better on my backswing. I can get better with my follow through. And we're constantly working on how to improve physically, right? We're not showing up physically. No one shows up freshman year of college and says, oh yeah, I'm good enough to play with the seniors right now. Like I'm good enough to hang. Rarely. Most freshmen who show up to college are like, okay, teach me the technique. We got to go. I got to learn. Sophomore year, I'm going to be miles better than freshman year. Junior year, I'm not even going to remember the player I was in high school. You're getting better physically. Why is it that mentally, as society, we just assume, oh, think out of it, fix it. Like that's a quick fix, because it's not. It's going to take the same level of repetition and hard work to master your mental craft as it is your physical craft. And when I learned that, when I realized, oh God, I'm gonna have to train my brain the same way I trained all my physical skills, I'm gonna have to learn and train my brain to handle those tough moments, handle the thoughts, recognize the ego, recognize the anxiety, reroute. Like that stuff is hard. I think it's a lot harder than the physical stuff. So to any athlete dealing with performance anxiety, I would ask them two things. Like one, have you been aware or even like recognized that this is something that is fixable, for lack of a better word, is moldable, changeable, and you can improve it? Have you realized that one, this is not it? Like there's so much room to grow. This is just you recognizing a weakness. So now how do we strengthen it? And then two, do you want to put that work in mentally? Like that's a choice that athlete's going to have to make, you know? I do understand that some people are like, you know what? No, I played for 5-6 years. It brings me literally no joy. My heart yearns to go pick up a camera and video. My heart yearns to sing. My heart yearns to just go and do something else in sport. You gotta follow that voice. However, like me, I was someone that was depressed and anxious, but I still wanted to play my sport. I still at the very bottom was like, I just can't walk away from volleyball. I just can't walk away. So I had no choice but to say, all right, I got to buy the books. I got to reach out to the mentors. I got to figure out how I'm going to train my brain and my mind so that I can be better. Because right now I'm not. I'm thinking negatively. I'm buying into the negative thought patterns. And, you know, I really had to make a decision that I was going to put the work in mentally with mindfulness. There's all this mindset training. There's a million awesome books. I mean, anyone curious, I suggest you just get the book Mindset by Carol Dweck. It's a great book on the growth mindset. I bet once you learn about the growth mindset, you'll be like, oh my gosh, there's a way for me to think about the scary moments in my sport. So that would be my long form thing I would want any athlete listening to this who has performance anxiety to know.
Yeah, I love that. And I think you would agree that, you know, for the athletes who don't want to go through as far as like you know, you had to shift your mindset, and
Mhm.
not every athlete is willing to do that. And for those who aren't, like, it's completely okay. You know, that you don't have to play a sport in college just because you were really, really good at it in middle school and high school growing up. And even if you're one of the elite players, like, if the joy really isn't there and you're not willing to kind of change like you were able to, then, you know,
Right.
it's completely okay. Like you said, like, go, if you want to pursue, if you have a passion for singing or art, whatever it is, like, that is
Yeah.
completely okay. And that's kind of what I talked to this person about too. I was just like, you know, you got to figure out what's going to make you the most happy during this time, because college it's short. You know, I'm far removed from college at this point. It goes by literally in a blink of an eye. And
Right. And I think there's beauty in the current situation we're in right now. Like I was talking, so I have a Facebook group called The Hidden Opponent with a bunch of student athletes are welcome to join it. And we talk about mental health and various things that we're dealing with. And I wrote a question in it last night. And I basically was saying, is there beauty? Is there a silver lining in this time right now? Because I know there's got to be so many athletes out there that were thinking, do I want to keep playing? I don't know if I want to keep playing or if I want to stop or if I'm going to regret it or if I'm going to not. And I think right now, like the world basically forced you to stop playing your sport. So I think right now is a good time to do some soul searching and think, okay, do I miss it? Am I living the dream right now? Do I want to get back on the field? Do I want to grab a stick? Do I want to go to practice? If they told me practice was tomorrow, would I be a little bit excited? Or would I be like, nope, this has been everything I wanted? So I think this has been a really cool opportunity for so many athletes to really get that time, and they didn't have to ask for it. They just get to think right now, you know?
yeah.
So I think right now is a good opportunity. And I think also you could check in with those athletes you work with and be like, how is it going without sport? Is this what you thought it would be? Are you liking it? Is it changing your decision at all? So this is a cool opportunity to soul search.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And my final question for you is, you know, I was listening to some of the TED Talk that you did, and you started out with an exercise where I know your room was full of athletes, and then you started out with, you asked everyone to raise your hands if they had any sort of injury, and I think like the entire room, their hands shot up, right? And then your second follow-up question was, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but something along the lines of, have any of you ever suffered with depression or anxiety? And then you could see like the hands were like drastically slower going up. And then
Yeah.
you kind of went into the more detailed about like there's a stigma with mental health. And do you
Right.
mind just kind of elaborating a little bit about that?
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to, in that moment, create a part of the talk that was a little bit engaging and also just got the audience to think, yeah, you're right. Why am I so like, oh, I've sprained my ankles. Like I broke my feet. Everyone loves to say they've had injuries. Yet if it's like anyone have anxiety, there's no enthusiasm. No one wants to share that. And I think they're completely equal. A physical and a mental injury are equal injuries. And I think the thing is, just because we cannot see a mental health injury, it's invisible. And I love using the word invisible because it's invisible injury. And it's hard enough. I mean, we can all relate to either knowing that like annoying sibling or cousin that's like, my back hurts and you can't see it. And you're like, yeah, right. Or that teammate that's like, oh my, whatever. And you can't see it. And you're like, okay, are they faking it? Are they not? So when it comes to mental health injury, for me to say, I'm so depressed, I don't even want to leave my bed. I'm crying at the thought of practice. And I'm starting to fantasize about a way to escape this. I mean, a lot of people feel like they would think, why are you so negative? Like, okay, then just take a day off. But no one's telling someone to take a day off for their ACL injury, right? we need doctors, we need medicine, we need a surgery. People with mental health injuries might need weekly therapy. They might need an antidepressant. They might need someone to help stabilize their mood and help with their emotion regulation. There's a bunch of things because it's an injury. Yet, because we can't see it, everyone feels this insecurity of, you know, are they gonna think I'm making it up? Are they gonna think I'm lying? Are they gonna think I'm weak? And so we sort of delegitimize the severity of it. And for me, I think I too still struggle with some of my mental health issues, like for example, body image. You know, I understand I am privileged to be in a societally thinner body and I can walk into stores and clothes fit me. That's a privilege because there's a lot of people that cannot just walk into stores and have clothes fit them. And yet I have that privilege, and to other people I may seem like I should be fine, but I know I'm not. I know I've struggled with my body. I've seen myself have a disorder. I know that's real, but I still will have that voice in my head like, well, you don't deserve to feel that way, or people have it worse than you, or blah, 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 blah. And I think we all have that voice come in that tells us, you know, your mental health doesn't matter. You're just being a baby. You're just being weak. And it's been something I still work on, and I really want to encourage others is we got to fight back on that stigma, because mental and physical injuries are equal because they're all injuries.
Yeah, I love that. And just a final piggyback on that. Do you have any final kind of take homes or pieces of advice for people who may be kind of, you know, struggling with mental health?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I would say if someone's struggling with mental health is to talk to someone about it, talk to a professional about it. And I know that is the answer most people give, but it's truly the best answer. I mean, when I started going to therapy and learning about myself, I learned so much. It was honestly, parts of it was cool for me. I was able to like track back when this happened in my life, and I have a pattern of wanting to achieve, and I have expectations, and I'm not present. And I started to realize and learn all these things about myself. It was so cool to me. And I became so much more self-aware. And now I have an ability to separate from my thoughts and recognize these are good or bad. These are this or that. And how do I want to think? How do I want to react to situation? And so my advice to them would be to really reach out and seek help, because you will learn so much about yourself. And I also fully believe that every single human being should at one point in their life sit down for a therapy session. I mean, we all need it. Every single person has something. Everyone is going through something. And, you know, seeing a therapist was one of the best things ever. And I'm a huge advocate for it.
Love it. I really appreciate you coming on, and I think even more so just your honesty and your vulnerability, just sharing about your own personal experiences. And obviously you basically took all of your experiences from your past and you have spun it into everything that it has become now. And, you know, I'm curious as to what do you have in store down the line, obviously once all this coronavirus stuff is over, but what do you have in store down the line?
I do my best to try to focus on how well I can contribute and do now, and I try to stay present with that. However, I'd say the biggest thing on my mind going forward is tangible ways I can help fix other people's problems. And by that, I just mean like, it means a lot to me that one of my posts can inspire someone and can comfort someone. Okay, but what can I do that can really change someone's life and help guide them with their performance anxiety, with their body image issues? And that's something I'm working on, thinking about, and talking to a few people I could collaborate with who are bringing to the table that more professional credential side of things. And then I have the experience side of things. But definitely on my radar is finding a way that I can do more to change someone's, you know, experience for the better.
Yeah, that's really great, and I'm sure your parents have to be really excited the fact that their daughter's going out there trying to make a difference and a very very positive difference. And I know you're. It seems like you're still relatively early on in your career, but I think that just the feedback that I've seen from some of our athletes and on your social media and stuff, it seems like you're making a really big difference and will continue to do so. And for some of my followers who maybe don't know much about you, do you mind kind of giving your plugins as far as maybe your website, your social media, how people can kind of find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is at Victoria Garrick, and then there's a link in my bio, which I just added there. I feel so organized. If you click the link, it has my YouTube, my podcast, my website, and the email you can reach me at, and my TED Talk. So anything you need to know about me is in that link. So I'm excited about that. And then also thank you for the kind comments that you just shared with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm really grateful to be on your podcast, to sit down with you. And, kudos to you too. I really admire that you're being a voice in this and talking about it. And that's got to be awesome for student athletes who come work with you, is they know, oh yeah, Wesley, he talks about all this stuff. He has a podcast about all this stuff. I could feel safe with him. So that's really cool.
I appreciate you saying that. And I'm going to actually share a link with all of your social media and also your website. I'll put that all in the show notes so people can kind of take a look at that. And I really highly recommend a lot of you guys, particularly, I would say even more so the student athletes. That seems to be kind of your target in a way. But, a lot of student athletes out there are struggling with this. And I feel like you guys are potentially missing out on a fantastic resource in Victoria. So make sure you guys give her a shout out and show her some love on her social media and stuff. So I definitely appreciate you coming on the show, Victoria, and I hope you guys enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you. I had a great time.
Thank you for watching today's video. Please feel free to like and subscribe and share it on your social media platforms. If you're interested, I have started an ACO Mastermind group, which is a growing library of content centered around ACO rehab. It has exercises ranging from immediate post-op to late-stage sport-specific movements and everything in between. It's a growing library and currently holds over 250 videos. There's content centered around assessments, movement breakdowns, exercise breakdowns, case studies, and a whole lot more. You also gain access to a private forum where you can engage with like-minded people, ask questions, share research articles, and share resources. If you're interested, please feel free to click the link below. Thank you for watching.